Hello and welcome to a Project Cars 2 video. My name is Yorkie and today we're going to be doing a multiplayer race around Imola, which is going to be 8 laps in length, and we're going to be driving the Classic Lotus 78. It's a car with ground effect. It's going to be a very interesting race. We're going to be starting from second position. This is the setup that I'm going to be using the stable setup as the default. Just a couple of tweaks to the brake ducts and also the downforce settings. Haven't really changed anything else on that page. This is the suspension page. Haven't really changed anything here. On the dampers, I've changed the rear bump stops, lowered them down to 18. Changed the radiator opening slightly, adjusted the engine braking and adjusted the fifth gear ratio. And haven't changed anything else other than that on the setup from the default. So that is what I am going to be using in this race, which is obviously something a little bit different. You don't often find a classic F1 style race in multiplayer. It's usually, majority of it is GT cars, mainly GT3, so a little bit of variation, which will be nice. So here we go then, coming to the grid, starting from second position. As I said, just recenter the TrackIR, engage first gear and try and get a good launch coming off the green light, and we do indeed, immediately pulling ourselves up into first position as we've got a much better start than the pole sitter. So turn one looks like it's going to be mine. Just going to take it nice and easy, but I think there's a little bit of contact with a couple of the cars behind in those wing mirrors, but it was a little bit difficult to see. It seems like VR Magoo, who started in pole position, is still there in second place and not too far behind. Obviously just coming through the second chicane, just trying to take it nice and easy through there and just kind of get the car settled. The car progressively gets better the longer you go into a stint as the tyres kind of get up to temperature and get up to pressure. So just kind of waiting for the car to really start to come to me a little bit before really starting to push, but see a little bit of understeer here going through the left-hander, but we managed to keep the car within the confines of the circuit and still keep on going without picking up any penalties. So we're just coming through a slow section at the bottom of the hill here before we come up towards the chicane. Just dropping down into second gear using the hill and toe method. So I'm using the manual clutch, not using the auto clutch assist. And as we're coming out the exit of the chicane, Magoo is pretty close behind us, so I'm going to need a pretty good run coming through the last two turns as it will get the slipstream coming down that start-finish straight. So feeling very much under threat there. And going a little bit deep into the penultimate turn is not going to help, so we need a good run coming off of here, but we get a boatload of oversteer as we're trying to get hard on the accelerator. But now we're underway, just need to make sure that I nail all the shifts, which I do, but it seems like Magoo has got a lot less downforce on his car, running at lower wing angles, and is therefore able to pull up alongside and has actually managed to pull up in front before, well, just as we're coming into the braking zone for the first chicane. They're getting a little bit of oversteer, having to fight the car a little bit, but Magoo's line wasn't the best. Could try and get a good run coming off the exit of here, but having to lift out slightly and hesitate as he was a little bit slow off the corner. Just killed all my momentum and prevented me from trying to make the move into the second chicane there. So I'm just going to settle in behind for the moment. We've got P3 of F.O.O.L just behind as well, so it's a three-way fight for the lead here on this second lap at the moment. And one of the interesting aspects about this car is the fact that it makes use of ground effects. So in some ways you want to be trying to carry as much speed through the corners as possible to try and make use of the downforce. The car does stick quite nicely, but when you're following in the turbulent air of some other cars, as you can see, the car is a little bit more lively or understeer a little bit upon initial entry. And then when you're starting to get on the power, especially if you get on it aggressively, where it's quite a big engine in this car and obviously no driver aids, you're obviously having to manage the power and trying to avoid spinning up the rear wheels. So it's a proper driver's car. It takes a little bit of getting used to in some ways. You have to be very, very smooth and progressive with all your inputs to really get the best out of it. As you can see, not really getting the best run through those last two turns. So we've dropped off the back of VR Magoo in front of us a little bit. He's taking a very wide line coming over the start finish line. Usually people hang over to the right hand side, which is the shortest run to the line and the shortest route down that straight, but he was actually hanging over to the left. Didn't really feel like I was going to be under threat there coming into the first chicane. You can see I'm going to fight the wheel a little bit. And Magoo being a little bit defensive here coming through the second chicane, so he's going to be slightly offline, and as you can see, gained a few car lengths on him by running my usual line, which is slightly better than his. Again, hooking up a nice late apex there, although just trying to tread carefully with the power on the exit. Still can get quite aggressive on the throttle, just not too much, and obviously be prepared for the car to move around on you. But it's nice and close between the three of us at the moment, all about, yeah, we're all within a second of each other. Just good stuff. Something quite unusual with these kind of races as well, the vintage stuff, a little bit more difficult to drive, having a little bit of a look there down the inside of Magoo coming towards the chicane, but thought better of trying to make the move as he is coming across a little bit defensive. So I'm just going to be a little bit more patient and try and get a good run through the penultimate corners, as obviously the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit is down the start-finish straight and into turns 1, 2 and 3. But again, not really able to close up the gap on Magoo coming through the final turn and get the run off the corner that I would like, but at least I'm maintaining a gap to F.O.O.L behind, and he's not really close enough to threaten me into the braking zone here. So down through the gears, down into second, a little bit sloppy with the gear changes there and the heel towing the car, just wanting to break away slightly as we were turning in and downshifting there. And again, Magoo taking a tighter line coming into that second chicane. And again, a little bit defensive here coming into this hairpin, so just going to try and set up for the late apex and get a good, nice straight run coming off of that corner. You can see, benefited from that slightly closing up onto the back of Magoo, but this left-hander here isn't really the ideal overtaking opportunity, and gone a little bit deep there. I'll say a little bit deep. We've actually gone out wide and off the circuit, and that's kind of now put us in behind F.O.O.L, conceding that position there. So I thought it'd be better to just let him go through rather than fight him and potentially risk a collision and losing touch to VR Magoo. So now down in third position, see what we can do about trying to regain that second place. So we're coming down the hill now, down into the braking zone for the penultimate corner, trying to get it slowed down, hooking up the apex on the inside. Now into the final corner, just trying to be nice and smooth, a little bit aggressive on the throttle once again there. Car moving around a little bit again. Seems that F.O.O.L is fairly close to the back of VR Magoo. He's pulling out the slipstream and pulling up alongside him. He's being forced to go to the outside. Will he try and go for the move? He dips the wheels onto the grass there. Gets very, very close to contact between the two drivers. Just at the moment, just kind of sat here watching the two of them, just waiting to see if either of them makes a big mistake and spears off the road and potentially capitalise on a freebie. But they both just settled in single file. There's a sign there which Magoo's just punted off the circuit, so obviously someone's had an off in the approach to the hairpin. So we have the double slipstream now on the straights, but obviously a lot more dirty air coming off the back of two cars now coming through the corners, and you can see struggling with it a little bit through that left-hander there. Dipping the wheels onto the grass slightly, but still not too bad. All the two drivers making a little bit of contact, a little bit of wheel rub in between the two. That's going to force F.O.O.L off the circuit and allowed me to retake second position just about. He was kind of there, half having a look down the inside into the chicane, but he wasn't quite in a proper position to really go for the lunge. It gave him just about enough room on the inside, just in case it was a little bit closer than I was anticipating. But that's us back up into P2 and now in pretty good position right behind Magoo. As we're coming into the last corner, we just need the good run coming off of here, and this seems like it's been the best run that we've had so far. Certainly seems the closest that we've been to the back of him as we're coming up to start lap 6. So here we go, getting the slingshot with the slipstream, pulling out alongside him, and I'm going to be forced to the outside, just having a look to see where he is. Now he's starting to come back at me a little bit. He's braked a little bit later than I have. managed to hook up the apex and I'm on a better line. He's gone a little bit deep, trying to get the overlap here, but he came across me a little bit more than I was expecting. I was going to go for the switchback coming out the exit to try and get the inside line for the second chicane, but he did a pretty good job of coming across my nose and kind of shutting that door off. Got very, very close between the two of us, and there may have even been a little bit of a touch, but it didn't really affect either of us. So he's held on to P1 for the moment. We've got the best part of 2 laps remaining. Well, 2.5 laps remaining in order to try and make our move and try and get ourselves back up into first position. That had been the best chance that we've had so far. That previous run in towards turn 1. It seems like we've had, despite the oversteer, a slightly better run than Magoo coming up the hill here in towards the chicane. Magoo going defensive. I'm just trying to line myself up for a good opportunity. I just want to try and keep myself nice and close coming through these penultimate turns, as I've been saying throughout the video. Get very close and tucked up right underneath the rear wing. Obviously wanting to avoid making contact with him. Not ideal there, didn't quite get second gear early enough and did it at the apex. That's unsettled us a little bit and wasn't the best run through the final turn either, so Magoo's managed to stretch out a few car lengths off the exit of that corner. It's going to help him stay ahead and defend coming into the chicane as I take a mixture of the shorter route down that straight, but also trying to pick up the slipstream of Magoo in front, taking quite a bit of curb there, which unsettles the car, just about managing to hold on to it and get it gathered back up. Still holding on to that second place, F.O.O.L. Fairly close behind, but I don't think it was close enough to really make a move. You can see my line is just that little bit better than Magoo's coming through that second chicane, just kind of faking the move coming into the hairpin here. He kind of gets a little bit of a four-wheel drift, but manages to hold on to it. And in a way, that kind of worked out for him. I was obviously trying to fake the move, but ended up being offline and fairly tight to the corner, which means that I had to take slower apex speed to maintain the line through the corner and try and get a good run coming off of it. And he's managed to eke out a couple of car lengths, which isn't good, but he's dipped the wheels onto the grass there. That could be our saving grace, and has allowed us to close up on towards the back of him. Again, just a car length or two between us. Not going to go for the move into the bus stop here, but he's going a little bit defensive. See if we can try and get a good run coming off the exit here. Got a better run through, and he had a little bit of oversteer there. A little bit of a nervous twitch from the rear end of his car as he's trying to apply the power. Now trying to get the run coming down towards the penultimate turn, but I'm thinking it would be better to hold off and wait for the actual start-finish straight. There's a little bit of contact between the two of us there. Let him go ahead. Because of that, he was a little bit wide and just shy off the apex going through that final corner, but again he's still managed to get the better run coming off the exit there. So I don't think we're going to be close enough to try and make the move coming in towards turn 1 here in the braking zone. So our next best opportunity is going to be down the hill into the penultimate turn, unless he has a terrible run coming up the hill towards the bus stop. These oversteery moments of trying to fight the car and gather it back up through the first chicane is not helping, but even still, we'll hold on to the back of Magoo. This is the final lap, so things are getting pretty tense. Try and get a good run through here, which we do. Don't quite time it right and kind of get the momentum blocked from us. Magoo slightly defensive once again coming into the hairpin here, just trying to line myself up for a good exit. But as I was picking up the throttle, the car started to rotate and snap out on me. But even still, look at this, we're right there, almost brushing the rear tyre, climbing up all over the curb on the inside, which very much unsettled the car. Just about managing to hold on to it. Obviously pressing hard, wanting that race win. So this is going to be a potentially good opportunity if I could get a good line through here, which I almost did. Almost ran out a little bit too wide on the exit curb. I've got to be quite close enough, having a bit of a fake move there, trying to pick up the racing line once again as we come through the chicane. Now we're right underneath the rear wing, and in fact we do make contact, lifting up the rear tyres of his car a little bit as we come out the exit there. Our next opportunity is going to be coming into the penultimate turn here. This is the move that we have to take, but we catch the curb. It's really unsettled the car, as you saw, just gone off onto the grass and through the gravel. Try and pick out where F.O.O.L is behind, and he's a little bit behind. We should be able to just about get onto the circuit once again ahead of him, which we do. But going for that move into the penultimate turn, just catching the curb, which really unsettled the car and almost spun us around, and just about managed to gather it back up. But we're going to come across the line in P2. after what was a very hard fought race, and that was very entertaining. A really nice breath of fresh air, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one with something different from the usual GT3 lobbies. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the race as well. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel if you are new here. And if you hit that bell notification, you'll be notified of every new video and live stream that I do here on the channel. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully I shall catch you in the next one. But in the meantime, have fun, stay safe, and take care.